of our Super Readers program, a comprehensive 2-level reading program that can take a non-reader to a grade 3 reading level within 220 lessons. It's an exciting opportunity to teach young kids as young as 4 and above how to read for the very first time. And if you think about it, reading is the doorway to all of learning throughout a person's life. So you are being entrusted with a sacred and very fulfilling responsibility, if you think about it, to actually take a young child, teach them how to read, and that doorway that you're opening will be the doorway for them to learn everything throughout the rest of their life. So very exciting. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about super readers right now, but before I do so, I really need to take a step back, abstract ourselves from this discussion, and talk to you about direct instruction, because direct instruction is the pedagogical model on which super readers is built. And once you understand the principles of direct instruction, it's sort of like your intellectual compass for the rollout of this whole program, because once you understand, it's like the first principles in calculus. Once you get this, many of the other questions you will have both now and in the future when you're actually implementing this will dissolve as you consider the first principles of what direct instruction as a pedagogical model and framework and method is really all about. And it is truly extraordinary. So I want to cite this project follow-through, which is the largest, most expensive, most ambitious social experiment ever conducted in the United States, in which 9 different instructional programs representing every major educational theory in existence were pitted against each other to find out what works best with young, at-risk children. And in this largest, most expensive, most ambitious social experiment ever conducted, Engelmann's direct instruction far and away came out on top. The genesis of direct instruction was actually with gifted students. So prior to this entire project and their participation in this huge study, it was actually being used with gifted kids. So it wasn't designed for at-risk kids. It's just that it is so powerful that even with at-risk kids, it performed beyond anything else. So this particular study involved 200,000 kids, 178 communities across America, every race, disadvantaged and advantaged kids. And here were the results. 9 models of teaching K through 3 compared in history's largest educational experiment. And they were measured on in three different ways: basic academic skills, problem-solving skills, and self-esteem. This one here represents direct instruction. These represent other models. There were in fact 23 total models, but they all fall within the 9 sort of pedagogical frameworks that the study's results were broken down into. But in fact, there were 23 different things in total tested here. This is just simplified. And this line here represents student performance in traditional schools. So anything above this means above what's happening in traditional school. So you see the great irony that direct instruction was so powerful that it won in every category: basic academic skills, problem-solving skills, and self-esteem. And most of the other categories, most of the other pedagogical frameworks actually had negative results. And the few that had any results that were meaningful, it was only in the self-esteem category. And interestingly, direct instruction was very successful in every single category, even though it wasn't set up to deal with self-esteem, etc. But the implications of using this kind of instruction builds self-esteem anyway. So this just shows you the power in the largest study ever conducted. Now, direct instruction was created by Professor Engelmann. He's an educator, innovator, and a genius, really, in what he has been able to accomplish, and the results speak for themselves. I mean, his model won out against every other model tested. So, direct instruction is based on a philosophy that it was never the child's fault if she failed to learn. Rather, the instruction was to blame. So just think about the implications of that. it was never the child's fault if she failed to learn. Rather, the instruction was to blame. I mean, how high are you raising the bar in terms of clarity, specificity, exactitude, precision, if you're saying that if there's any fault here, it is never the child? The instruction has to be so perfect that any child can learn, and if they cannot, we have failed. The other aspects of direct instruction: zero ambiguity. What I mean by that is, and you'll sense it when you get into these programs, there's just absolute clarity. You know, normally when terminology is sometimes inconsistently used, or there are these assumptions that the student will understand something and infer something, deduce something, and be able to leap from one particular lesson to another. There's just nothing like that. It's absolutely graduated and systematized so that there are no leaps, and everything is so exact in its precision in terms of the consistency of the vocabulary, the terminology, everything. So, as I already said, some of the key characteristics or attributes: explicit, careful, precise, systematic, and total. Explicit in the sense that everything is mapped out in terms of how the procedures for everything, how the teacher talks to the student, exactly how they correct everything, exactly how everything is scripted. It's so precise, and in each lesson, only 10% of new material is introduced. Again, part of this very gradual, systematic way of teaching. If placed correctly, a child will answer most of a lesson's material 100% correctly. 70% correctly for the new material introduced, and 90% for, say, the material that was very, very recently introduced in the sequence. So there's this very careful, gradual introduction of material, and always moving the child along toward 100% understanding. And this creates mastery and then fosters self-confidence. And that's exactly why, as you saw in the study results, self-confidence or self-esteem was elevated beyond any of the other programs, even those that were specifically supposed to be self-esteem oriented pedagogical models. And direct instruction is a teaching methodology that provides students with clear instruction at their skill level so they can master content and strategies that allow them to learn at a faster rate than traditional methods. And in light of everything I've just shared with you, that's a vast understatement. But technically that's its definition. So we're going to introduce our own Super Readers program for students 4 and up. It is fully Academy branded. It is completely computer driven, and this is again where this program has evolved, because originally teachers had a very specific script, like literally every single word and sentence they had to say for the entire duration of a lesson was stipulated and was part of the whole package of how you presented it. But thanks to computerization, we now have a program that can do this automatically, because the computer does it and communicates the instructions 100% the way that direct instruction calls for. And the tutor's role will be simply as a facilitator and a guide and someone who corrects students when they respond. And again, this was created by Engelmann himself. It's the exact same program that was used with all of these, with that massive study that I cited, except it's just being improved upon and advanced even further. And as I said, the computerized to further reduce any margin for instructional error. Can take a non-reader to beginning 3rd grade reading level in 220 lessons. The program is divided into 2 levels. So you have level 1 and level 2 of Super Readers. Level 1 is 120 lessons. It will take a non-reader to a 2nd grade reading level. And level 2 is 100 lessons, and it will take a reader from a 2nd grade reading level to a 3rd grade reading level. So it's a 2-level program, so just keep that in mind. It teaches all of the skills necessary for children to become successful readers: decoding, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. It is primarily a phonics-based system. Now, phonics has proven to be more effective than look-say / whole word method, and even though that method continues to predominate in schools. So if we look at each lesson, most of the lessons have four main activities. First, the children identify sounds and letter names. That's sort of what I demonstrated to you. Then children identify words. Then they read a story. And then the last part is workbook or line paper activities. So in Super Readers Level 1, they have workbooks. They have a workbook, and you'll print out the corresponding activities for each lesson that the students go through, and it's like 100 and I don't know, probably 150, 180 pages of material for all of those lessons for the first 120. And then with line paper activities for Super Readers 2, in Super Readers 2 they have a reader, which is a reading book essentially where they follow along. And then when it comes to the activities, they actually complete that on line paper. And then, as I mentioned, there's the workbook and line paper activity. So in this case, here you're seeing examples of what gets printed. This is lesson 30 here, and this is everything that they have to complete. And then this is from Super Readers Level 2, and here you're seeing this will be presented on the screen, and then they will use line paper to actually complete the correct, make the right choice, or write out the correct word, or whatever the activity calls for. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of the actual program. As you can see, the aesthetic has a kind of hand-drawn, a storybook feel to it, and you can see it's actually been branded as our own product.
In some words, the letter O says its name. It makes the sound O. What sound? The next letter is A. Touch it. In some words, A says its name. So what sound does it make? Yes, A. The last letter is E. Touch it. In some words, E says its name. So what sound does it make? Yes, E. Yes, R makes the sound R. S. Next sound, N. Yes, F makes the sound F. Good work. Here's something new. You're going to read words. This is a word. Words are made up of letters. To read words, you say the sound for each letter. Then you say it fast. Once more. You say the sounds, then you say it fast. The first letter in this word is N. The sound for that letter is N. The next letter in this word is O. The sound for that letter is O. Your turn. What's the sound for this letter? Yes, N. What's the sound for this letter? Yes, O. This time I'll say sounds. You'll touch the marks under the letters. Listen and touch. Get ready. N. O. N. O. Listen and touch again. Get ready. N. O. Your turn to touch and say both those sounds. Get ready. Say it fast. You just read the word no. Good for you. Story time. I'm going to tell you more about Sam the bunny. When we left Sam, he was trying to help a little ow, s. What word? Here's the picture. Who's in this picture? Why is the mouse carrying all that stuff? But when all the stuff was on Sam's back, he could not ooh, v. Listen again. Ooh, v. What word? Yes, with all that stuff on Sam's back, he could not move. Here's the first row of dotted letters you'll write. What letter are you going to write? The R is made up of a line that goes straight down and part of a hump. Here's the line. Here's the part of a hump. Here's how to make a letter R. You start at the big dot and make the line down. Watch. Now you make part of a hump. Watch. Once more. Make the line down, then make part of a hump. Your turn.
The cat, mad.
Yes.
You will see.
Good job, honey. Great job.
Asked
Yes.
the ram can I try that coat.
Good job.
The ram said this coat is for rams.
Perfect. Great reading, buddy. High five.